Hello, and welcome to another edition of our conversation, Amber. How are you?
I'm great today. How are you?
I'm doing absolutely fabulous.
Fabulous. Wow.
Fabulous, all the way to fabulous today.
All the way to
And we're going to have a
fabulous.
fabulous conversation because this is a topic that you and I have certainly shot the bull about on various occasions.
Okay, but I don't know what it is because you're springing on me again.
That's the fun. The fun of these conversations.
Okay.
And specifically, I'm going to call it the path to project management. And the reason I call it that is that my path to project management came through the military. The military sent me on courses. They brought me through different pieces. Certainly, I learned what is part of the military body of knowledge, but that's a separate body of knowledge than you would find in a professional association. But different people find their way to project management. Certainly, I've talked to various military members over the years who are retiring, and I'm like, you have the project management skills because you've been doing it for years. You didn't call it that. Come over here, find some certification, find some things. So that's sort of what I'm going to bring up to you today. For those who've been in the world of, hey, I'm really good at putting stuff together. Hey, I'm an event planner and I do this. Hey, I do these other pieces that look like they're project management, but what do I do with it?
Yeah.
How do I do something with this? For that audience, what's your take, Amber?
Well, first of all, my journey to project management is probably a really valuable thing to share. Very briefly, I will say I started out as a pastry chef. Which is nothing to do with project management and everything to do with project management. But when I started as a pastry chef and then morphed into a caterer and then developed a cooking school and became a cooking instructor, I was in this very heavy event planning environment. Obviously, in the kitchen, there's a lot of time constraints. There's a lot of cost issues, and scope is always about what's going in the plate, on the plate, out of the plate. So I lived in that world and yet then found myself falling into the not-for-profit leadership environment, worked for a lot of organizations that were solely run by volunteers and became sort of a volunteer manager, a volunteer coordinator. Still had my cooking in my back pocket and did actually that in sort of an entrepreneurial way. But my day job became really focused on motivating large groups of people that weren't paid. And that environment taught me a lot about human resources and nothing about how to make people do something because you're giving them money. It really was about inspiring them and building a passionate kind of contribution, almost like pathway for them. And in the midst of all of this kind of discombobulated career path profession, I was really disillusioned because I didn't know who I was. And I found myself struggling to identify in the professional space. People would say, "What do you do?" And I was like, I didn't even know what to tell them. And I didn't even know what I was proud of. And it was in that desperation about 14, 15 years ago that I stumbled across the project management body of knowledge, PMBOK, like we like to call it. It's issued by an organization, a global organization, a not-for-profit called the Project Management Institute. And I didn't know anything about it. But what I found in this body of knowledge, and back then it was a book, a big, thick reference book. As I fell through the pages, I began to recognize that so much of the work that I had done was actually project management. I just simply thought that I was the only one in the world doing it. And although there were people that I could talk to about parts of my work, there was no sort of designation or profession that I could like begin to have conversations with others and go, oh yeah, that's what we do. And then I found the PMBOK. My first reaction was, oh, this is awesome. My second, very closely following the initial reaction, was I was mad. I was madder than a hatter. Because I was also like, where in the world has this been? You know, there are so many things that I had fumbled around in the dark to figure out how to do well. So many processes and ways of working that I just fumbled around. I found efficiencies by accident. I was a lesson learner. And although that was a part of the body of knowledge, I didn't know that the body of knowledge existed. So fast forward to today. What I chose to do in my pathway to project management was to use certification and education of the body of knowledge to reverse engineer and legitimize my career. Now, I didn't do this because an employer wanted me to. I didn't do it because I had to get a certain job that needed certification. I did it because I was struggling with my own professional identity. And I found that project management helped me recognize my gifts and skills and put it in a form or in a, designation that I could communicate to others about. I also got involved with PMI, Project Management Institute. And I did that because when I kind of came to a real turning point in my career, I was unemployed. I was in school doing my master's certificate in project management, and I was studying to get my PMP certification. And PMI just sort of felt like a great resource. I got involved in the local chapter and I started to volunteer. If there was one thing I knew, having been a volunteer coordinator, it was I knew how to volunteer. And I sort of, in desperation with no employment, did it. What I found was it really bolstered my ego and it made me feel legitimate by talking with other people who were in different industries than I was, but they were all project managers. And I began to use the lexicon, the language of project management to associate myself. That being said, that's been quite a while now, and I'm on the other side. And when people ask me now, what is the pathway to project management? I say, well, I really do believe strongly that everyone, including children in sort of grade and middle school, I really believe that the body of knowledge of project management should be taught at that level, because what we have learned over 50 plus years in this profession is lessons learned and ways of working that are highly effective. They're not the right answer all the time, but they're a solid, great way to approach work. And learning that so that we and anyone can leverage the knowledge of project management, I think is invaluable to everybody I meet. But, and here's the big but, becoming a project manager, I really believe that's a subject matter expertise role. And that's super controversial, I'm sure.
Well, maybe tell me a little bit about that, right? Because yes, it's controversial because the act of managing a project, an event, a
Yes.
topic. I mean, we all do this from my grandson learning to tie his shoes,
right,
all the way up to building our mega projects.
Yeah.
So yes, that exists in all of our world, but you're talking about the specialties, the expertise of that, and it might be controversial. So what might be controversial and where do you sit on that controversy?
So here's a controversial part. And first and foremost, I love engineers. So if you're an engineer and you're listening to me, what I want you to know is I have such humble respect for how your brain works and how you've been educated and how you think. And it's wonderful. And I've met amazing engineers. But I have to say, I've also met a lot of engineers that assume that they make good project managers. And I'm here to tell you, my friends, you don't. But here's why. It's because of gifts and skills. And I want every individual that follows their passion, whether that leads them into engineering, whether that leads them into theater, whether that leads them into the military, whatever people's passions are, wherever it leads you, I want you to recognize your gifts and skills uniquely serve you in your subject matter expertise. But project managers, the role of a project manager is a subject matter expert. And not everyone has the diverse skill set to do it well. So if you are working for an organization that has decided to give you the title of project manager, I want you to understand that although you may be their project manager, that doesn't mean that you make an excellent project manager, especially if you have not been trained in the body of knowledge and you don't have the support of this 50 plus years profession undergirding your decision making and helping you thoughtfully lead the project, because there's a lot there. And The other thing about being a project manager, and this is often where I find engineers that are good friends of mine have struggled, they've often been given the title of project manager, and they're really good at putting all the tools together. They're great at making the plans. They're great at using and leveraging technology to create schedules, to do work breakdown structures, to, build a risk register, and they're excellent at that. But they treat those tools as though that is the work of managing a project. And time and time again, I see them find complexity, and all of a sudden they feel incapacitated, because what actually happens when complexity comes on a project is it's the trust and the respect and the relationships that you've built with your interest holders that saves the day, not the project plan. And those relationship pieces, those power skills that need to be there, that is a subject matter expertise that not every human can balance with an adequate level of sort of an engineering mindset. So I'm not saying engineers can't be amazing project managers. Many are, but they are a different toolkit. And there are unique individuals out there who can hold those in balance. And as a result, those individuals make really great subject matter expert project managers. Others are given the title and maybe even doing the role, but they always feel insufficient or that they're lacking some of the secret sauce.
Yeah, I love where you're going with the secret sauce there. And I've never been an engineer, so I don't want to pretend to speak on the side of the engineers. But as you know, I come from a technical background. I was an IT specialist and certainly have been the IT guy for many an organization. And very few organizations are going to say, oh, yeah, my IT guy speaks really well in terms of relationships. So engineers, I'm letting you a little off the hook here. And IT guys, sorry, I'm going to wear it too. But you're right in that if we're going to look at when I'm going out and I'm doing educational pieces, I talk about technical skill. I talk about I don't like the term soft skill. I like the term human skill and or
power skill. I like power skills.
That's right. And so the thing engineers and IT guys are great at is engineering and IT.
Yeah.
We are really, really, I know how to think like a network. I know how to see a problem like a network.
Yeah.
You can give me a problem issue and I can see it in my head in little boxes and go, yeah, okay, I gotta go over here, gotta look for that. Great.
Yeah.
None of that teaches you how to deal with the frustrated person on the keyboard ever. And so, but that's a skill. And that's a skill that I didn't learn until I spent time in the project world, in the leadership world.
Right.
Because it is a skill set. And I think this is what we're talking a little bit about, that being really technically brilliant doesn't automatically make you good with a power skill.
Agreed.
And what can we do about that? Because there are things you can do to get good at power skills. But if we don't literally say to people, in conflict coaching, I always come back to hearing, right? Hey, look, we all listen because we all have ears.
Yeah.
But how you listened on your first date with someone you really cared about was a very different skill set that you brought from when your mom's telling you to take out the garbage.
Yeah.
And if we don't really delineate that and talk about it, it's hard to come up with. So for those wonderful engineers and IT guys out there, I'm still standing for you. I'm standing with you too. As someone who's read The Secret Sauce and been part of The Secret Sauce, how would you get those people ready for those power skills?
So popular misconception, I also believe, is we have been fed a bill of goods in our, I would say, North American mentality in higher education. And that is, if you lack a skill, just go back to school and get it. And I say, okay, if you lack that skill, I would marry that lack of skill with some self-awareness work, so that what you begin to understand about yourself is, what are your passions? What are your gifts and your skills? What are your strengths? And if your strengths align with you getting that skill set, then go back to school and get the skill set. If they do not align, then guess what? Get out of the way. Call yourself out on it. Recognize, you know what? I am better when I stay in that networking mindset, in that ability to see and plan and engineer the path. better for you to become a subject matter expert in your pocket and let other people on the project team fill in their gifts and skills than for you to go back to school to level up in an area that you may not have natural passion or desire to do so. And I recognize, because I am a professor in higher education, so I recognize I'm sort of undercutting that whole line of thinking. But what I really wish people understood was stay in your natural lane. Because when you talk to people who love their work, the people who love their work don't feel like they're working. Do you know why? Because they love what they do. Because what they do is in their passion, it's in their gifts, it's in their skill set, and they learn within it to get better at what they naturally love, not to become an accountant when they actually love theater. You know, a lot of times we diversify because we're trying to make money. And I think time and time again, if we stay in our lane and we leverage what we naturally love, that's our greatest superpower as professionals. And in a project environment, the project manager is only one person on the project team. Now, the project manager has a unique skill set, and that really needs to be this balance of being able to see the plan, make the plan, and view it from a height, but at the same time to balance that with relationship, trust, and respect of the people that that plan affects. That your project engineer doesn't need to do. You know, a project engineer can live in the mindset and the mentality of their gifts and skills. They are invaluable as a subject matter expert. The IT specialist on your project stays in their lane, sees, feels, and works in a very unique way, brings their subject matter expertise, and that frees up the project manager to support, coach, and enable their work, but not to come in and say, well, you're not doing it the way I would do it. Well, good. A project manager that isn't an engineer shouldn't be coming in and telling an engineer how to do it. It should be a collaborative thing where the PM says, well, show me, explain to me, help me understand how you see it and how I can support you. And everyone at the table of the project should bring their own unique skill set, and those skills should be within their passions. You know, one of my favorite things to do when I'm assembling a project team for the first time is I want to get to know my team. And I don't just want to know, like, what'd you go to school for? Because you might have felt forced to go to school to do that. I want to know, okay, that's what your schooling is. What do you love? A lot of people spend a lot of time in their jobs doing work for money, not working in their passion. And I really think in the projects that I have worked on, in the teams I have been with, where we have set it on fire and had such success, it's been because we all understood our gifts and skills and we supported each other to deliver them. And we trained or we brought subject matter experts into the gap areas, but we didn't decide that we had individually or even in a collective group, we had to be the answer for all things. It's that sort of inward focus or ego-based leadership that creates more complexity in a project than needs to be there. So please don't hear me chastising anyone's gifts and skills. It's the opposite. I just want people to have enough self-awareness on their pathway to project management that they know what role they should have. And if in studying and becoming aware of the body of knowledge of project management, you recognize, wow, I would make an amazing coordinator because I love planning and organizing. I love all the technical. I like communicating out to certain individuals. I like staying on top of things. Great. Then become the best PC there is. Become a project coordinator that without you on the project really wouldn't be at the same level and caliber. You will end up supporting and enabling the work far better. You'll feel great and you won't hate your job. And put the PC, the project coordinator, with a team of people that feel similarly in different areas. And the project manager's role, then, that subject matter expertise becomes this person who can balance it. You know, I get it, Martin. You, at certain times of your life, didn't know how to have those critical conversations with key interest holders. I understand that. Worst thing to do would be to put you in a position where you're forced to have to learn on a project where that could cost us time, cost, and scope. Better for someone who really has that skill set to lead there, support you, help maybe even mediate and communicate with you. You inevitably get better at understanding. which you already have, because someone's been in that gap for you. And at the same time, it allows you to stay in your lane. I mean, you come from military. All I can think about is in the military, if you're managing communications on like a submarine and it's in the middle of like wartime, none of us want you to be distracted. None of us want you to be like, oh, I really wish I understood how to. No, we want you to like do the technical work in front of you to the best of your ability, free and unencumbered by all the other pressures that other people may want to throw on you. So I just think it's about that niche, that focus. And that's also why when I meet people, not everyone should become a project manager, but I think everyone should have project management training and understanding.
Yeah, I love where you're going with that. And thank you for that little bit of military recognition because it's funny. What I'm hearing you talk about is performance teams and high performance teams.
Definitely.
And when I think about high performance teams in the military, some people are going to be like, oh, we're going to look for special forces and operators. And don't get me wrong, there's some amazing stuff in there. But if I'm going to talk about a high performing team,
Yeah.
where we're going to keep people in their lanes,
Yeah.
I'm always going to come back to MASH.
Oh.
Because MASH is what it looks like a little bit more in real, like in reality, not everything flows beautifully all the time.
No kidding.
You got your doctor who's wearing his Groucho Marx eyes and mustache over. That's life.
Yeah.
Life is your specialists.
Yeah.
Aren't always going to be the easiest person to get along with.
Right.
They're not always going to be the friendliest person. They might be quirky. They might be lazy. There's all kinds of, but I always come back to MASH because regardless of who they were when there wasn't somebody on the operating table, the second the operating table became the place of the project, keep this person alive, everything moved.
Yes.
And that's the secret sauce I'm hearing you talk about.
Definitely.
And with a couple minutes left, let's talk a little bit about that secret sauce. Like, what have you found to be one of the best tools to help a project manager, a project lead work with the clinger in the group? Sorry, clinger. Love you. But we all know there's going to be a clinger, or because sometimes even radar for all his helicopters, that's not normal either.
I think for me, this is where that kind of project manager skill set also has to include those power skills. And, power skills really are, I mean, traditionally we call them the soft skills or the leadership skills. What it really is, power skills are your power to understand you. And because of your own self-awareness, your power then to understand others and where they're coming from. So I think the best way to to use the clingers and the radar, I hope our listeners know MASH. If you don't, you'll have to find an episode and catch up on that. These individuals come across perhaps in some professional settings and personal settings as really hard to understand, hard to justify their actions and their behavior. But when in reality, we recognize them as individual humans that are also incredibly skilled in their own way, then we can value them for that. And we can ask of them very honestly and transparently, I don't fully understand you, but I want to make sure that you feel that you are heard, that you can contribute your value. And a project manager who understands the power skills will create an environment for those people to really give their best gifts in the critical moments. And I think the other thing is let the scrutiny off in moments where it doesn't matter as much. So I think a lot of organizations, they want this sort of culture thinking. Everyone must sound and act a certain way. And it's not human. We all need kind of, and my partner often calls it off gassing. And he used to be in the mattress industry, and mattresses, when they're made, the foam actually has like gases within it. And so when you first get this sort of mattress into the showroom, it's really important for you to like lay that mattress out, and the foam actually off gases and it sort of expresses itself so that when the customer comes to lay down on the bed, they're not like, this stinks, I don't want this mattress. So I think, remember that as humans, we need time, we need space, And a conscious project manager will create that space. And the expectations will be when we're in performance, high performance, it's all hands on deck. Everyone's focused. Everyone gives their gifts and skills. When we are not in those moments, then we give grace to one another. Project managers need grace. And, I need grace. I'm not the best project manager in the world. I really am not, because my gifts and skills are only in a couple of pockets. And I need the team to come around me to help me help them and help us be successful. So it's this idea that we are always going to be better together. And a project manager has to focus on how do we get them together. And that really is in giving space for people, allowing them to show themselves to you. And if a person shows themselves to you and they show themselves to be not trustworthy, not respectful, then I think we also have to have boundaries where we say that behavior is unacceptable. In this project, we don't talk to each other that way. I want to give you the respect that you deserve, but it's a mutual thing. And I think that's also really important. Not every organization has great boundaries and great kind of culture structure around how we treat each other. Good project managers will make that clear. This is an incentive to write those team charters. Make sure that the team co-collaborates, writes out the team charter, agrees to how they're going to work with one another, how they're going to speak to one another, what are the boundaries. Everybody signs it, everyone agrees to it. And then when the team starts to shake or shudder, we can look back to that charter and go, okay, in the team charter, what did we all say we were going to be committed to do? So that's what I would suggest.
That's fantastic. Thank you. And as you say, like in those team charters, one of the things I recall is how do we deal with each other in conflict?
Absolutely.
And if you don't know the radars and the clingers of the world, we all have people on our teams.
We are those people. Let's be clear, Martin.
We all know we're going to have to deal with many personalities and
Yes.
all those personalities and diversities.
Yes.
Some of which are going to bring beautiful diversity and some of them are going to bring challenging diversity.
Absolutely.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Because that's where the beauty of getting a wonderful project comes from.
Definitely. And you know what? Don't be persuaded to think that project management sort of as a career choice isn't necessarily for you. I would just say, let's remember there's more than just the PM. Projects are the way we elevate our world across the globe. But being a project manager is not the only role to have in a project. There are thousands of different ways to contribute, and being a subject matter expert within your domain and being a part of a project team, that's how we elevate our world for project success. We work together. And the PM is not the only person. In fact, they're not even the most important person at all times. It's just one role in a greater project team environment.
Thank you, because not all of us have the same skills and we work well together.
Yeah.
And yet we do not have the same gifts and skills.
No, we do not.
And so thank you for being part of this conversation. And I look forward to our next conversation.
Thanks, Martin.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.